Thank you, Manny, for being here with us. And um, Jared, I think you want to kick us off.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. For the record, Jared Reed, City Attorney. Thank you, everybody, for coming to tonight's workshop. Tonight's workshop is based on the reason we are having tonight's workshop is, as you all may remember, last year in July of 2020, this council passed Resolution 1452, which declared the city of Prineville an inclusive city. On September 8th, 2020, the council then created the JEDI Training Advisory Committee to assist council and city in trying to identify ways the city could be more effective regarding policies and procedures that promoted inclusion. We are having tonight's workshop to have a conversation with members of that committee, with other community stakeholders, to identify what's happened over the previous few months and what is going on with other entities in the community, and in particular, the Crook County Foundation. We'll also discuss what for the future direction the council may like to see. Tonight, you will hear from our professional training group from Crestcom, who will provide council with a summary of the training that they have provided staff over the last few months regarding bias and areas that staff could improve regarding DEI. You'll then hear from representatives of the Crook County Foundation, who will share with you their efforts over the previous year regarding DEI initiatives. And then finally, we'll hear from our committee. The committee is going to share with you observations that they have made, and also, I think importantly, share with the city council some of the limitations that committee has faced. Once the committee is finished, the hope is to have a group discussion regarding their findings and recommendations. The purpose of tonight is really to have a conversation. So council is encouraged to ask questions, and we're encouraged to have a dialogue. With that, I'll turn it over to, and just to be aware for our presenters tonight, for lack of a better term, I think that Crestcom and Foundation will each present, their presentations will last about 5 to 10 minutes each, and that'll give us plenty of time with the committee. We're open for about 45 minutes with the committee in that group discussion. And so with that, I will turn it over to the Crestcom representatives. I believe we have Cale Pearson and Manny Martinez both on the line.
Yep, this is Cale Pearson. How we doing?
Good, good. Good evening, Cale.
Good. Sorry, I'm on my phone. A meeting ran long, and traffic in Bend these days is a little bit more. I just wanted to say that I'm on here, and really Manny can take the lead since I'm still driving. I want to be safe, but just appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'll let Manny, if you want to take it away, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cale. Thank you, team. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Just wanted to kind of give a quick overview of some of the courses and classes that we've been able to provide for the city since last August, September timeframe. Just to recap, we've had an opportunity to provide 4 different workshops. 2 of them were specific to the diversity and inclusion world aspects of it, particularly focusing on the breakaway from bias. We did a couple of different sessions early in September and then again in January, just to bring in those different aspects. The team was able to do some different activities, engage in some discussion when it comes to diversity and inclusion during the breakaway from bias sessions. We also took the time to work with the city of Prineville on a couple of other workshops that not necessarily were focused so much on JEDI. However, the aspects and contents of those workshops really lended themselves to enhancing those conversations. Back in November timeframe, we did a conflict resolution techniques session. And then in January, we did a coaching session. And those were two good particular workshops that allow the team to kind of put together some structures and how we can better communicate and listen and work as a community. So, we were able to align some of those sessions as well as we focused on diversity and inclusion type initiatives. We look forward to continuing on with that. In the month of May, we got another diversity and inclusion workshop that we have lined up. We've also had the opportunity to continue to engage in that session. And for that, we also have some additional inputs coming in from one of our collaborators in the team. And gosh, when I have all these different screens in front of me, sometimes I forget names. Kel, can you help me out?
Yep, Cindy Lawrence from
Cindy,
the
thank you.
University of
I'm like,
California, San
Cindy,
Diego.
there you go. So she's also an expert in diversity and inclusion, and so our May session will have Cindy featured to provide some insights on that as well. Jared, I believe you might be speaking. There you go.
Thank you, Manny. I apologize. Zoom etiquette. Does the council have any questions for Manny before I turn it over to the Crook County Foundation? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. So with the Crook County Foundation, I believe we have with us tonight Randy Ebner and Patty Norris.
Yes, I think I'm taking the lead here. Thank you, Jared, and council members and committee members for inviting us to be part of this tonight. I think we were asked mostly to do a little recap about the Crook County Foundation's DEI efforts over the past almost year now. So last July, our board did vote to form a formal DEI committee within our organization. And our initial purpose was really to look internally at our policies and programs and activities. And to do that, we decided to start reaching out to different entities of the community to find out kind of what the path everyone else was going through and what kind of information could we share with each other. And we really felt like we learned that in the exception to the city, not many other entities in town were doing a lot directly trying to work on DEI activities within their own programs, organizations, and businesses. So our committee got a little more expanded than we originally planned and has really organically grown into about, what do you say, Patty, 15, 20 people who are regularly attending our meetings and engaging in conversation and program development. We meet every other week. A number of folks on this call are on our committee, which we greatly appreciate. And our focus has been really just reaching out into our community and finding out what is needed, what work can be done, what suggestions do people have, what experiences have they had in our county, and really letting it organically grow from there. One of the big aspects that we keep reiterating in our own group is that DEI is a very large term. So for us, we want to look at everything from racial inequity to sexual orientation to issues with demographically where people live or their financial impact of the community and their financial well-being. So we were really looking at a lot of different sectors and have had a lot of fantastic conversations with community members and leaders. And we have found a few things kind of keep rising to the top. One of those is that it seems everyone feels that just basic community education is a huge key, that there's a lot of folks in our community who misunderstand what DEI is or have kind of a bad taste in their mouth due to maybe one instance that they've had working with a specific group or experience that they've seen in the world around us. So a lot of education about that everyone who lives here is special and unique and deserves to be treated equally and deserves to have a safe place to have a voice, be represented, and to participate in their daily life and not feel threatened. And then really, we've just heard a lot of people are ready to help and figure out how to take things to the next level in the community. So our committee has come together. Robin's working on a great project, is the chair of a People of Kirk County project that we're in the process of. We've launched an initial book club, reading the minority experience, having people engage on how they felt throughout reading the book and such. And then our committee meetings have actually expanded to every other week, having a just open dialogue where committee members or others can join us and just talk, ask those questions that you're not sure who to ask or how comfortable it is to ask to other folks. Talk about the world around us and what we're seeing and what we're hearing is being experienced by our peers and our neighbors, and just kind of growing from there. So we've done a lot in some ways, but we have millions of miles to go. We realize this is not a sprint. It is a lifelong marathon, and we had a great call with the city the other day, and I think there's some opportunities for us to work together as well as bring in some other agencies working on things in the community.
Thank you, Brandy. I don't know, Patty, did you have anything to add?
Nope, I think Brandy did an awesome job of summarizing what we have going on.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And so both of our presenters were a lot quicker than we sort of anticipated. So did the city have any sort of, did the council have any questions of the foundation before we turned it over to our committee? Okay. So with that, I believe we have 2 of our committee members present. I know I see Miss Robin Loxley and also Tiara Bilbrook. I don't know if anybody else from that committee is on the line. Okay, so with that, we have both Robin Loxley and Tiara Bilbrook. Ms. Loxley was a member of our discussion that we had at our last workshop. I can't remember when we had that. I believe it was either August or September. And Ms. Bilbrook also, I believe, was I don't think she participated in that particular workshop, but Ms. Bilbrook has actively participated in all of the trainings that Crestcom had mentioned earlier. And so with that, I will turn it over to, because she's on my screen, Ms. Loxley, would you like to start?
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for being here tonight and just having this conversation with us. So as the advisory committee, we were invited and honored to attend a lot of the trainings offered by Manny and Kale. And those were really a great primer and start for within the council and within us as community members, opening up some of the discussions, getting people thinking about inherent biases, diversity, equity, inclusion, a lot of different terms that have come up that in some ways were brought about by some of the events that happened this past summer with lots of protests and things of that sort. But really hoping that this is a movement and a change that happens within our city council and, you know, kind of driving it within the advisory committee, not as a flash in the pan, but as something that's going to be a sustainable long-term change. And so Manny and Kelly, appreciate you offering the immense amount of knowledge and training that you did in the very professional formats that you did. And something that Manny had said that I want to emphasize and kind of put forward is that they are working with, I believe it was a professor in San Diego, who is a DEI expert. And part of the challenge of what we ran into within the advisory committee was that between the resolution 1452, which was kind of a line in the sand for the city declaring an inclusive place, and also the mission statement and kind of the guidance set forward for our advisory committee are huge, broad, wide open problems, questions, things to tackle. I believe Randy said as much in her, you know, discussion of what we are doing within the Crook County Foundation. And so within our initial meetings at the advisory committee, and as you're noticing here tonight, myself and Tiara are here to represent, but at the same time, many of us are at least 2 or 3 commitments deep when it comes to either doing this type of work or others. And that's a problem. That doesn't mean that the DEI aspect of what the city is trying to do gets enough attention. So what we wanted to offer and kind of have a conversation with all of the council members and everyone here tonight is what that would look like to create a more sustainable solution and one that really offers the city an opportunity to shine, to show that the events of this past summer that were stressful, could be emotionally traumatizing as well as costly in some ways. We don't want that to happen again. And the majority of people that I talk with as a mental health therapist here in Prineville, but also as the creator of Prideville, is that they are proud to live in Prineville. They enjoy our city, they enjoy our county. They're proud of it, and they want to be able to make that shine rather than some of the really bogus rumors and just nastiness that has been floated about. So within the advisory committee, we thought, how in the world are we going to address some of that and be timely, efficient, and effective? Part of my concern as an individual, and Tiara, of course, interrupt me if it feels, if I'm overreaching, is that any one of us on this committee is not assumed to be expert in DEI just because they are female, they are a person of color, they are a member of the queer community. And none of any of those folks that are representative of those communities should be expected to put emotional labor, work, and time in for little to no cost. And so looking at, just some of the basic information around what a DEI consultant, what type of work they would do within a job expectation, and specifically looking at the language within our mission and objectives, that could be anywhere from a full-time wage of $40,000 to $80,000 a year. No one in the advisory committee is asking for that, but we are asking that the city consider putting forth a single representative, someone that could work on either a part-time or contract basis, to really kind of pull in all the information from the different groups that we have either represented here tonight or the ones that we're not seeing, that we're not hearing from. And that's something that I can't assume as a white cisgender female, pretty basic woman, I'm going to be able to speak for everyone just because I'm a veteran, just because I identify as female or queer. So with that in mind, we bring it to the council tonight and to everyone here to maybe open a conversation about giving this position the time and the attention that it deserves, to, as a city, send a message that this is not a knee-jerk reaction to any one event. Diversity, equity, inclusion has been around as long as we've known, decades and decades, years and years, and to show that we want to create a sustainable solution that the city of Prineville will see forward into the future, not just for me, but for my children and their children, encouraging people to come, to stay, and for their kids to want to grow up and raise their kids here. And I don't know, Tira, if you have anything else to offer, but really just opening up the floor for questions about why we came to that decision, what the limitations are with having a volunteer workforce within the advisory committee, or what you see as a council as to things that could be challenging, problematic, or of concern for that recommendation.
So the only thing that I would say, I'm sorry, can everybody hear me? I'm not sure if you can. The only thing that I would say about it is that we just had nowhere to start off. There was no like set point. We didn't know with the committee, like a lot of us didn't know exactly why we were there, what we were doing, where to start, what maybe we could give and help with, or it's so huge that there was no beginning point. So it was kind of we don't know where we start because we weren't really directed in like any way of like what the community needed from us, as much as what we would like to input and help with inside of the community.
Yeah, to add a little bit more to that, I feel as though what the council members were asking of us as an advisory committee was not just looking for quick fixes or small token solutions that, throwing up a gender neutral restroom sign or providing a little bit of representation on media glossies, things like that. I feel like the city deserves and wants more than that. And by providing a set individual that has a bit of accountability to the city council, but also has the freedom and latitude to move within the different communities here in Prineville, would be a huge asset and help drive that response rather than reactivity in the future. I think we have a question. Yes, sir.
Actually, we have a comment. Keep in mind, please, that you're asking for a committee member to be a paid position. Please recognize that all of the council members, including the mayor, serve in non-compensated roles. I serve on at this point, about 9 different committees, 4 of which are state committees. I'm not reimbursed for any of those. I'm reimbursed for expenses. But to come to the council and ask for reimbursement or a paid staff position, I have difficulty with that. If people are genuinely encouraged or genuinely believe that they can and are willing to make a difference in the community. That's what we're looking for in committee members. But to expect to have a paid staff position, boy, I'm not ready. Personally, I don't know about the rest of the council, but I'm not ready to go that direction.
Understandable, and I appreciate, your honesty in sharing that. And my concern as someone who sits with a lot of these folks that represent some of our minority communities here in Prineville is that they don't have the opportunity to volunteer the time needed to be able to do the work that's expected. Not anyone in this committee that's here tonight is asking for a job or a paid position from any of you at this time. What we're doing is just wanting to add some awareness and kind of identify our concerns that the folks that do want to help, like you, sir, had said, I'm 9 different positions in. And we feel that diversity, equity, inclusion is something that's important enough to warrant that type of city response.
And if I could just interject real quick and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I was hearing isn't necessarily that you're asking the committee to be paid, but mainly the suggestion was this concept that that because this area is so broad, that it would be helpful to have either a position or even somebody currently employed with the city be able to be more of a liaison to be able to shepherd not only the committee, but also the drastically large different groups within this, not large, but there's many different types of groups within the city that we could reach out to be more of an inclusive city, and using that role of a person to kind of bring more direction into this effort is sort of what I was hearing that was the suggestion. Am I wrong, or is that where you were asking or suggesting?
Correct. Yeah, that's more along the lines. I don't have a way of knowing per se how costly it was to have extra staff and police officers and other city assets available during the protests this past summer. But my hope is by having a person that's able to respond and provide information about what the city is or is not doing, how they want to be proactive with some of these situations, may end up saving quite a bit of money and further benefiting all of Crook County. So not asking for a specific advisory committee member to be paid, nor paying for our committee.
So with that, I guess I have a follow-up question to that, because it went sort of when you were speaking generally. If you did have some type of role like that, what do you envision the role of this committee to actually be?
So, and Tiara, let me know if you have anything to add. I don't want to be the only one speaking on behalf of the committee, but here goes. So the advisory committee itself is a group of diverse individuals that are either based here in Prineville or have vested interests within Prineville. That would remain a volunteer group that does truly have the need and desire to see DEI go forward within our town, within our county, myself included. And at the same time, we want to make sure that there's continuity and sustainability within a fixed position at City Hall. So that way, as advisory committee members kind of ebb and flow, move about, do what they need to do with all of their other pressing obligations, there will be an individual that carries the torch forward.
So, Robin, I'd like to chime in. This is Steve Forrester.
Yeah.
And one of the things that occurs to me as I listen to your logic and your strategy and recommendation is I'm seeing a parallel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing a parallel with not unlike what we're doing with Manny and Kale, which obviously they're contract people. And, we believe in our professional development and are willing to make an investment and allocate taxpayer dollars to make that happen. I think what I hear you saying is, and I'm drawing that parallel in that one of the things that I believe that we're trying to accomplish is that connection. And I use the example of the Hispanic community is if I look at myself or the organization in the mirror and say, what have we done specifically to reach out make that connection, develop that relationship, create that safe place, that we would have a participatory relationship with that community. And I realize there's more than one community. I'm just using that for an example. And that's really that action that we haven't been able to cross that bridge yet. We're not ready to cross that bridge necessarily. But if I understand what you're saying, is that this is going to require a concerted effort to make those connections and develop those relationships, create those safe places. And the group so far, this is the conclusion that you've come to, is this is worthy of an investment to get over that bridge, if you will. Am I tracking correctly?
I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
That's helpful. It makes sense. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's something that, Manny and I had the opportunity to talk offline a while. I want to say it was back in September. And, part of my concern, and being a military veteran, I've done plenty of trainings where we check the box. We go
Right.
through, the mandatory training. And Manny and Kale, by no means am I knocking what you did, because it was very well presented and professional. And at the same time, one of my concerns offered to Manny was that, for lack of better words, Prineville problems require Prineville solutions. And part of the kind of rub that I saw happening over the summer and throughout a lot of the political shenanigans that were going on is that people were very resistant and pushing back to, well, you're not from here, you're from Portland, you're from California. And so really wanting to, and I have all the faith in my mind and my heart to know that Prineville has folks that can work on mending and pulling folks together rather than, continuing the divisiveness. And that's going to be that kind of cultural brokering that we need to make this go the long haul. And I feel like that's going to be a lot of work for one individual person. Part of the mission statement of our advisory committee is just to review policies and procedures. That's going to take a certain level of technical education to just go through and know where to look, what to look for. And honestly, I don't know what I don't know when it comes to how a city is run. And I'm, in the county, not in the city. So I don't know what that would apparently be appropriate for. So having groups like the Crook County Foundation and the advisory committee, my thought is that, for communication's sake, mashing those together with the appropriate permission and consent, that would be a very strong group of individuals that have the city's best interests at heart, like Steve had said in the earlier comment. And at the same time, really have someone within the city that knows the inner workings and that has some of that accountability and teeth in the matter to bring this stuff to you on a more regular basis.
Yeah, one of the things, another parallel, Robin, that I think is important to be mindful of is, in our experience, whether it's economic development, health and human services, partnerships with the county. One thing that's really come clear in my time working for the public is how interconnected we are. And what I mean by that is, whether it's, St. Charles Healthcare, the work that you do, the school district, the county, the city, Parks and Rec, the list truly goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that occurred to me as I learned more about what the Crook County Foundation was doing. Is I think the city's in a great position, not unlike many other efforts that we do, and we have such a great staff in so many ways. We are in a position, I believe, to lead that effort. And I think that the DEI effort is another shining example of the city's kind of in that position where we're best positioned to help lead. And having said that, where I'm going with this is, I really do think it needs to, it broaden, and I don't mean broaden in terms of watering things down or stalling or anything of that, but broaden this into that community effort, because we need to bring the county along with us. We need to bring the school district along with us. We need to bring a number of other groups. And I think that's how you build that momentum of change and understanding and, creating, again, those safe spaces and that participatory comfort that some of the underserved communities, are not feeling right now. So again, I think from my perspective as a city manager, Robin, I think, and Tiara, I think that if we can partner with Brandy and Patty and their team, I think that's a good thing. But I do agree that, and I think what you're saying is the city's in a position to kind of take a leadership effort to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what feels really exciting about, just the work that the advisory committee has talked about and where we go from here. The fact that that resolution, the language was put together, offered really quickly, kind of, crafted into something that really fits our city, and then put together and put out. Having come from the Portland area over 12 years ago now, that was amazing for me to see and really makes me proud of what we're doing here. And that's why I want to see that continue to happen. And it's going, as any one of you knows, for all of your respective positions, it's going to take a lot of hustle to get some of these bigger entities like the school district, like St. Charles, like, Facebook, whoever, just conducting it. Plenty of people care. Plenty of people have motivation, resources, education, etc. It's just going to take an individual to kind of serve as that hub and that conductor to start pulling it together. And the only way that I see that happening, or the most effective way I see that happening, is if we make it worth the time for that individual. And I know that a lot of us here could do that. But like it was earlier said, lots of folks are very much committed to a variety of different things.
Yep, well said. One of the things that popped into my brain, I always like to tell anecdotal stories, and one of the things that popped into my brain was, and I think you'll appreciate this with your background, Robin. My staff's heard it before, but it's kind of like the traditional strategic plan. We got to do a strategic plan. We got to do a 5-year strategic plan, and we go out there and we spend all this money and effort and time and energy, and we do a plan, and we go, hot dog, we got that, finally got that plan done, and we put it on the shelf and look at it. And what we've tried to do at the city with our strategic planning is to incorporate that and make it become what we do: daily work, standard work or standard operating procedures. It's something that we just do every day. And my analogy and tie-in is that's where this needs to end up. It's just part of how we operate. And that's, that's really that Herculean effort that we have to find a way to do effectively, because at the end of the day, becoming, the DEI effort has to be just standard work, in my opinion.
I would agree with you on that front. And I think that the DEI considerations demand and deserve more than the reactionary kind of quick token responses. What I've seen is that some of those reactionary small gestures, if anything, can be kind of exacerbating of a reactionary and really kind of mercurial situation, which it feels more political when that happens. And so making it more like the water that we swim in, and more of that marathon rather than the sprint, gets to set the baseline and keep it there. And ultimately the hope is that as it becomes that, it won't need a paid position, it won't need a whole lot of extra maneuvering to get folks invested and involved. But we're kind of starting from the rock bottom, which is really exciting in some ways and also a big challenge.
And we have to build a foundation too. And I think that's part of, I don't want the work that I hope that the work that we've been doing isn't all of it written off as checking the box. I heard you made that comment later, and I certainly appreciate that very much. But I also feel like some of that education process, some of those tools, some of the things that Manny and Kale have been working with staff on, those are fundamental and foundational. And I think we've started to build that foundation, but it not taken away from the point that it's a big job for sure.
I guess myself as the mayor, speaking solely on myself or for myself right now. We've had these discussions. I've talked with Steve quite a bit about this. I feel something needs to be done. Robin, thank you for sharing and all the ideas you have. Tiara, thank you for the time you put into the committee. personally, I think we need to do something. So do we need that dedicated person from the city? That's something we'd have to look at. That's something Steve would have to see if we could develop a staff, or a contracted part-time person. That still, this is just me speaking, you know, is that something we look at too? But personally, I'm all for doing something, moving forward somehow with this to, you know, I'm sure there'll be more meetings, you know, what's this look like on the city side? What's it look like as a partnership with Kirk County Foundation? You know, where do we move forward from there? So I'm all for moving forward with something. We don't know what that'll be yet, but I support it.
Thank you for that, sir. And thank you for your willingness to just look at what moving forward looks like. At any point, it would be all too easy for the advisory committee to whip up a list of small changes that we could make within the city. But I feel like there is a lot of power and a lot of good movement in that consideration of, like Mr. Forrester said, having the city kind of lead the charge. Prineville gained national recognition for some of the stuff that happened in the summertime. There's absolutely no reason that we can't do that again with some of the work that we're doing here in creating or utilizing models that already exist to address a lot of our underserved populations and areas of improvement. And we can always go back to the small brass tacks if we need to, but wanting to see this be a really long-term solution is kind of why I'm here this evening.
This is Councilman Papke, and first off, for all the committee members, I know we've only got a couple on tonight. Thank you for your time and for your effort and your dedication. I think that says a lot. I personally appreciate it, and I think the city appreciates the work you're doing. And I'm kind of with the mayor and with Mr. Forrester. I think that, you know, as you were making your pitch, Robin, you know, in some semblance, you know, and I certainly appreciate what CouncilmanUffelman said, and that, yeah, we are volunteers, but at the same time, we've got Mr. Forrester and the city staff behind us, you know, where we kind of set the direction, and then they're the ones to actually put it in play. And I guess as I'm thinking through, you know, there's always kind of the chicken and egg idea as I come by, you know, what's going to come first, the plan and then the person, or the person and the plan. And I guess what I would like to see as we move forward, you know, in thinking about if we do need to dedicate some staff and some time, some resources, well, then what's the plan look like? You know, I don't necessarily want to get down to we're going to do X by Y, but, you know, from your time and the effort you all have already put in, where do you see some of that? And I know you kind of described some things you have envisioned that person doing, but I guess with that, I kind of see kind of parallel paths where, you know, these are some things we can do. And then this would be the person or the resources we need to make it happen. Because I think that'll help us as a council really be able to come together, and not just the council, but all those partners we talked about who could really get behind this is what we think we can make happen. And these would be the resources, staff, et cetera, to make that happen. And so, you know, I think it's, you know, how can we help make that do that, and how can we help guide that? And then as a city, be able to come together and say, this is what we can do to help support that.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think that the plan, you know, from what we've talked about within the advisory committee, and also, you know, being privy to some of the work that's going on with Patty and Brandy, it is very much going to revolve around, you know, kind of setting that foundation of education within our community. For example, there, you know, was a lot of talk at some points as to whether Prineville was a sundown town. And you know, the assumption is that they must be, because that's just the way that, you know, rural country folks are. That's the laws that are on the books. That's not the case. That's not the case. And it's not fair for our city, our county, to be pigeonholed in that sense just because of an assumption with bad intent. And so, you know, a part of that plan would be just providing education and reviewing lots of the policies and procedures to verify A, no, this is not the case, and B, let's signal boost and help, spread awareness. And part of my job while serving in the military was psychological operations, and we would do consequence mitigation as well as rumor control. And what we have the opportunity to do right now within the city is to take power of the information and put it out there in a way that really helps people understand that not only do we not condone racism, but here are the things that we have already that are implementing and supporting that. Here are the things that are not true, not factual. That is just one place that person, that individual could serve as kind of what we would call in the military a force multiplier. They're not coming up with a brand new wheel. They're not reinventing policies and procedures, but they are multiplying the efforts of each one of the individuals that are here tonight, as well as all the other entities that are not represented that are doing the DEI work out there. They're just going to kind of sit, like I said, as that hub to help put that information out there, to respond when incidents comes up, and really just force multiply the hard work that's being done and the effort of people that are volunteers, that are tapped out, but really want to do well by their city.
Hey, Robin, just as a thought process, throwing something out there, would it make some sense? We have a great relationship, the city does, with the foundation, obviously. But listening to you just now, it's almost like you and your group, and all the things that we've done, both of the city foundation, the DEI committee. It doesn't seem like much of a stretch in my mind to start working on what a scope of work might look like. And it seems to me like that might be a great action for us to undertake as a group. And then give that some thought. Obviously the city, to Councilman Uffelman's point, we're all about our finances, and that's our foundation, and a very important part of our foundation. We're very sensitive to that, and we've been successful with our finances. So that's a big consideration for us. So, but having said that, if we kind of understood the scope and kind of had a baseline scope to work from, I think that would give us the ability to start to discuss and dialogue with whether it's the foundation and the city, whether there's some other people we might want to bring into that. But I'm just throwing that out as kind of a seed to plant. And it seems to me like we're kind of at a point where we're developing a scope of what that might look like, what that effort might look like. It seems like we're knocking on that door to me.
Oh yeah, we're right there. And that's something that I want to say we've discussed within the advisory committee, as well as, when I've spoken with Jared personally about, considering internships as well, whether that be a college level internship or that be, some of the high school transitional time into college internships that, are a much more less costly. And my hope and expectation is, even though DEI consultants across the nation get paid anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000 a year, that's not a Prineville solution. But listening to Becky Munn and some of the projects that they do within Juntos, there's a possibility there. And that also serves as like another kind of symbiotic relationship, in the sense that it's encouraging young people to be involved in their political process here in Cook County. So win-win on a lot of different levels. And, like I said, this isn't just about coming to the council and saying, we need a position and we need you to pay for it. Absolutely, as the advisory committee, our hearts are all in when it comes to getting creative, getting resourceful, and grant work is something that can be done as well to help fund some of these. So that's not ruled out either. But yeah, I agree that, maybe a more accurate, defined scope of practice, scope of what that process is, could be helpful, not only for everyone here tonight, but also within the advisory committee of what that looks like going forward.
Yeah, I agree, Robin.
And I could say, if invited, we'd be more than welcome to, or more than happy to sit on part of that planning of the scope, because we've encountered things in our 8 months of work through conversations where there's some great ideas out there that are just a little bigger than what I can handle as a part-time staff person who has 11 functioning committees, that could very easily fall into a role of a part-time person that could take, I think, all of our efforts to the next level.
It's going to take all our efforts, Brandy, for sure. So yeah, I think that's well said. And I'm not above delegating this, you know, a little bit to you.
Teamwork will make the dream work, right?
There you go.
Yep.
I'd like to know, do any of the other counselors have anything to add to this?
This is Janet Hutchison, and I just want to share my appreciation for the foundation and all that they've done, and also to the advisory committee. And Brandy, I really appreciated when you talked about the community, that education is a big part of it. And, you know, Robin, you discussed that too, where people thought it was a sundowner town, and we aren't. And part of it is getting that information out to the community so they know what we are and what we aren't. It was interesting. I've appreciated what everybody said, but I guess what I'm focusing on is what Tiara said. And when she said there was nowhere to start off, they don't know what, you guys don't know what you're doing and you need help with. And to me, that sounds like you need somebody in a leadership role that would help guide you. And I don't know if that's a part-time position, if that's a full-time position, but it seems like in order for everybody to come together, that there should be a position of some sort. The intern, Robin, I like that idea. That sounds like a great idea. But it sounds like there's lots of ideas out there, ways that we could accomplish this. So thank you all for all the work and effort. And so I guess, Tiara, I just wanted to ask you, am I wrong in thinking that it's a leadership role that you're looking towards to help answer some of the questions you all can't answer?
No, you're you're not wrong at all. What I would love to see is someone who has a little more guidance on where we're going. The committee it really was put together quickly, and we, you know, I personally have gone to all the trainings and have sat in on lots of meetings and had different contacts with different people. And without someone like kind of, it's a leadership role. So it's someone who's guiding this in what everybody needs or wants, and kind of, and because it's such a large spectrum, it's somebody who could also reach out to other people at the same time and have some type of a relationship there. But yes, it's a big role, but there really does need to be some sort of guidance where we're going, you know, and what the city would like to see, what the community would like to see, what the county would like to see. It's more of somebody who kind of makes it all one and makes it all make sense. If you get what I'm saying, it needs somebody who actually knows what's going on, has the time to look into these different things, can reach out, things like that. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be a paid position, but it's a big position to do. It's kind of like a liaison that sits between everyone and just kind of keeps everybody together and tries to help get everybody on the same page and know where we're going with this, because like Robin said, it really is a marathon. This is not a sprint. If we want this to have, if this is a lasting thing, which I truly hope that it is, there needs to be a goal, like not just one goal, but there needs to be things that are set so that we can look at these different partnerships or different entities or different mandates, or but somebody actually has that drive, like that position that of where they know that it's going and how we get there. And then all these people, with the city and the Crook County board, and with just everybody, it just makes it easier if they had like one go-to and that person actually knew what was going on. That's what I meant by it. Yeah, it's a leadership thing.
Thank you, Tara. And if I may interject really quick, I just wanted to share somewhat of an observation in regards to one of the fundamental goals of the resolution as well as the committee was to make efforts to make the city more effective in being more inclusive to the entire community. We, even prior to the COVID-19 and having all of our meetings on video, which people can watch by Facebook, we never had a ton of people coming to council, right? I remember Councilor Rumble. She talked for years about how she would love a lot of younger people to be more engaged with the government. And when I hear about somebody that can help make the city more effective with a lot of different groups, I think about during our training, somebody mentioned that one of the problems with a lot of the marginalized populations is they just don't trust government. And so you can invite as much as you want on the city website, but until somebody's actually interfacing and putting a human touch to those populations, this is just going to be a perpetual problem moving forward. And so part of how I was hearing that this position would not just be talking with the committee, but also talking to a variety of different communities within our overall community and trying to understand how the government, how their government can serve them better, or how they can participate in a more open way. At least that's what sort of some observations I've had. And if anyone in the committee disagrees with that, please provide so. So we have about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that any counselors have any questions they may want to ask or any comments regarding this, so that we can have some sort of idea of how we want to move forward.
This is Counselor Merritt. I certainly don't want to see us going backwards. I think there's still a lot of information that we need. The beautiful part about the Crook County Foundation, it is comprised of all our community stakeholders. And I do feel like the county needs to get on board, and I would be all for the school district getting on board and make it really a community affair.
Thank you, Gail.
This is Counselor Youngman, and I wanted to thank everybody for your hard work. I was able to attend a couple of the meetings, and I definitely was very much affected. It's such a huge subject, and I think the more we have exposure, the better off we all are, understanding everybody and what their needs are. So I am really looking forward to what the plans are going to be, because I think it's only going to get better.
So if, to kind of try to come out of this session tonight with an actionable item, would the council, I guess I'm going to ask the council to comment on the idea that Robin and I discussed with Tierra and the Cook County Foundation. If kind of we collectively work on a scoping project to bring back to the council with our results. That's what I would like to do. And I realize this is a work session, but kind of a consensus nod that that makes some sense. I would appreciate that. I think Mr. Papke, I think you did say that was you supported that. I know the mayor, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the council and see if that's an actionable item that makes some sense at this point.
Yeah, this is Councilor Law. I absolutely agree. I would support that initiative 100%, Steve.
Thank you, Councilor Law.
I would also support a scoping.
This is Counselor Hutchison. I would support a scoping also.
This is Counselor Youngman. I too would support that.
Steve, I'm not sure if you need Jeff and I's nod again on that, but I support, fully believe we need to look at the scope of this, what this would be, scope of work. And then, that can come back to the council later. And when we have an idea and see how we can move forward with something.
We need to have something finite that we can make a decision on. And right now, there are a lot of generalities.
Yeah, Councilor Eppelman, right on the money. I couldn't agree more. And I think if we could get that scope and then continue to work with, Brandy and Patty and their team, along with our committee, we could bring back some good information. And certainly Liz and I will have some work that we will do as well on the city's position and our ability to participate financially and at what level makes sense for us from that perspective. So, yeah, I think, that's a pretty good chunk of work for us to do. And I think here in the next few weeks, we could get some work done on that with Jared's help and bring that back for council, have another one of these workshops. Jared, are you good with that, buddy?
Yeah, I certainly think we can get something together, and I think we could work pretty closely with the Jedi Committee in regards to that scope, just to use as a sounding board, for a lack of a better term at this point. But I think tonight was very, very productive in regards to having a conversation. I want to thank everyone's participation here tonight. I want to thank Robin and Tierra for their efforts in this regards and all their work, and for having spent the time here tonight with us, as well as Kale and Manny. And also Brandy. I know that Patty had to leave, but this is a topic that there's no easy answers to, unfortunately. And we will try to continue to do the best we can, and hopefully we can get a scope together for the council to listen to consider in the near future.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jared, for being our facilitator, and we'll look forward to pulling this group back together with some results on our actions.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.